The envelope had been left under her dressing room door at 6:15 in the morning. No name on it. No return. Just her competition number, 14, written in the upper corner in blue pen, the way someone writes a number when they want it found but not traced. Inside, $8,000 in banded notes and a single index card that said, in the same blue pen, "Place no better than 4th. You'll have other chances." Nadia held the card for a long time. $8,000 was 4 months of her studio rent. It was the physiotherapy bill she had been deferring since October. It was the breathing room she had not had in 3 years of competing on a budget held together with sponsorship shortfalls and weekend teaching work and the specific, grinding arithmetic of a dancer who was good enough for the top level and could not afford to stay there. She put the notes back in the envelope. She put the card on top of them. She set the envelope on the dressing room table and looked at it for 6 minutes. Then she laced up her shoes and went out to warm up. She had not decided yet. That was the truth she carried through the warm-up, through the backstage corridors, through the 40 minutes at the bar, while the other competitors moved around her in focused silence. She had not decided, and she told herself she was still weighing it. And she knew, somewhere underneath the weighing, that she had already decided and was not yet ready to stop pretending she hadn't. The International Contemporary Dance Prize was the competition she had been building toward for 6 years. Not the biggest prize in the world, but the one that mattered in her field. The one whose judges placed dancers with the companies that made or broke a mid-career trajectory. She was 29. She had 1, maybe 2 competitive years left. This was the time. She had also spent 6 years being told, in varying forms, that she was close but not quite there. Too raw, too individual. Too much of herself on the stage and not enough of what the judges expected. The person who had left the envelope knew exactly which wound to press. Stay right there. Because what happened when Nadia Reyes walked out onto that stage is the reason this story exists, and the man watching from the front row is the reason it doesn't end the way anyone expected. Subscribe now. You will want to be here for every second of this. The first competitor went on at 9. Nadia was scheduled for 3rd. She stood in the wings and watched the first 2 and did what she always did in the wings. Nothing. She went entirely still and entirely internal and let the noise of the building fall away until there was only the shape of what she was about to do. She had choreographed her own piece. That was the first thing that had made the adjudicators uncomfortable in previous years. Most competitors performed works by established choreographers, safe and legible. Nadia had made her own. 6 minutes. A solo work built from grief she had not spoken about publicly, the loss of her teacher, the woman who had found her at 13 in a community center in Western Sydney and trained her for 11 years and died of a stroke at 61 3 years ago, while Nadia was on the other side of the world at a residency. She had not been there. She had found out by phone. She had stood in a rehearsal studio in Amsterdam with the phone against her ear and had not moved for a long time. Then she had gone back to the bar because that was what her teacher had always said. When everything else fails, go back to the bar. The piece was called Still There. She heard her number called. She walked out. The stage was a thrust configuration. Audience on 3 sides. No wings to disappear into. Nowhere to look that wasn't someone's face. She stood in the opening position for the standard 4 seconds of silence before the music began, and in those 4 seconds she did what she had trained herself to do. She found one face in the audience and used it as an anchor. She found the man in the front row. She did not know him. He was perhaps 40, dark-suited, the specific quality of stillness that she recognized, the stillness of someone who was also trained to be entirely present. He was watching her with the focused attention of someone who had come to see something specific and was now revising what he expected to see. She did not analyze this. She filed it and began. The piece was 6 minutes. She knew within the first 30 seconds that she was doing it differently than rehearsal, not wrong. Differently. Something had opened. She did not know if it was the envelope or the 6 years or the grief the piece was built from, but she was not managing it anymore. She was inside it. And the difference between those two states is the difference between a performance and an event. She heard the audience go quiet in the second minute. Not the polite quiet of a competition. The other kind. The kind that means no one is thinking about anything else. She finished in her opening position. 4 seconds of silence before applause, which, in competition, was significant. This was not cued. This was something else. She walked off stage. She was standing in the wings, catching her breath when she heard it. The thing that had not happened, as far as she knew, in the history of this competition. A voice over the PA system. Not the MC. A man's voice, unhurried, accustomed to being listened to. "Excuse me," the voice said. "Before we continue, I'd like to request that the previous performance be evaluated separately from the remainder of the competition, as a standalone work." Backstage went still. She heard the MC's voice, uncertain. "Mr. Sir, the competition format." "I understand the format," the voice said. "I'm requesting an exception. The judges can rule on it." A pause that lasted long enough for it to be real. Then the head judge's voice, she could identify it. She had been in enough competitions, saying, "Carefully, the panel will consider the request. We'll take a brief recess." Nadia stood in the wings and did not move. The stage manager appeared at her elbow with a face she could not read. "Do you know who that is?" the stage manager said. "No," Nadia said. "That's Elliot Vance." She knew the name. Everyone in this industry knew it, though few had attached a face to it. Founder of the Vance Arts Foundation. The single largest private funder of contemporary dance in the Southern Hemisphere. The man whose support could take a company from 20 people in a converted warehouse to a home season at the Opera House in under 3 years. "He's never attended a competition before," the stage manager said. "He doesn't do competitions." Nadia looked at the stage. "He's at this one," she said. The recess lasted 12 minutes. When it ended, the head judge made an announcement. The competition would proceed as scheduled. Nadia's performance would be assessed both within the competition and as a separate submission to the Foundation's Artist Development Program, effective immediately, with the Foundation's representative in attendance as an observer on the judging panel for the remainder of the event. The remaining 5 competitors performed. Nadia watched all of them from the wings. They were good. Several of them were very good. And she watched with the honest, accurate attention of someone who needed to understand the field she was in. She was standing at the water station when the woman appeared beside her. Tall, 50s, with the specific quality of someone who had seen a great deal and maintained their opinions. She said her name was Clara, and she worked with the Foundation, and she had a single question she had been asked to ask on behalf of the man in the front row. "He wants to know," Clara said, "who taught you?" Nadia looked at her water cup. Her name was Irene Reyes. No relation, she just had the same name. She found me in a community center when I was 13 and trained me for 11 years. She's not still working? She died 3 years ago, Nadia said. The piece is for her. Clara looked at her for a moment. Something moved in her face. "He'll want to know that," she said quietly. "He will very much want to know that." She left. Nadia stood at the water station and thought about the envelope on the dressing room table, and thought about $8,000, and thought about the index card that said you'll have other chances, and thought about the specific cruelty of a sentence like that. offered to a 29-year-old dancer in a field that had already been telling her she was almost, but not quite, for 6 years. She had other chances. She had almost taken the money and made sure of it. The results were announced at 2 in the afternoon. She placed second overall, not first, which she had not expected, and which she accepted with the clean equanimity of someone who had stopped performing for the judges in the second minute of the piece, and therefore had no argument with whatever they decided. Second was not fourth. Second was a fact. She was at the dressing room table, still in her competition makeup, when the knock came. He was not alone. Clara was behind him. But he stepped forward in the specific way of someone who understood that a doorway was not the right place for this conversation. She let him in. She did not entirely know why she let him in, except that she had looked at his face in the front row during 4 seconds of silence and had used it as an anchor, and she trusted, somewhat irrationally, the face she had anchored to. "Nadia Reyes," he said, as if confirming something. "Yes," she said, "that piece." He stopped. He was not a man who struggled for words, she could see that, but he was a man who used them precisely and was therefore sometimes slower than people expected. "That piece is the best thing I've seen on a stage in 7 years. I've seen a great deal of stages." She looked at him. "Thank you." "I don't say it to compliment you," he said. "I say it because it's information you need. It changes what I want to ask you." She waited. The foundation has been looking for an artist in residence for its new program. Someone mid-career, original, willing to develop new work over 18 months with full financial support and a company of 10 dancers. He paused. "We've been looking for 8 months. 63 applications. I wasn't going to find it in applications. You found it in a competition you don't attend," Nadia said. "Clara told me to come," he said. "I almost didn't." "Why did you?" Something moved in his face. She said there was a competitor who choreographed her own work and that the adjudicators were uncomfortable with it. He held her gaze. "That is always the thing worth seeing." Nadia looked at the envelope on the dressing room table. She picked it up. She held it out to him. "Someone left this under my door this morning," she said. He took it. He opened it. He read the card. His face did not change expression, but something in the room changed temperature. $8,000, he said. "To place no better than fourth," she said. He looked at the card for a long time. Then he looked at her. "And you went out there and did that." "I went out there and did that," she said. He set the envelope down very carefully, the way you set down something that has told you something important. "Do you know who sent it?" "I have a suspicion," she said, "but no proof. And I don't care. Particularly, it didn't work." He looked at her with the same expression he had worn in the front row, the focused attention of a person revising expectations upward. "No," he said. "It didn't." He offered her the residency. She asked for 2 days to consider it, which was not a negotiating tactic. She was the kind of person who considered things and needed the time she said she needed. He said of course. He gave her Clara's card. He stood up to leave and then stopped at the door. "Irene Reyes," he said. "Was she trained classically?" "Yes, Bolshoi graduate. She came to Australia at 26 and never went back. She must have been extraordinary. She found me in a community center," Nadia said. "I was 13 and I was terrible, and she saw something in it that I couldn't see. That's extraordinary." He was quiet for a moment. "The foundation funds a scholarship program," he said, "for young dancers from under-resourced backgrounds. It's currently not named for anyone." Nadia looked at him. "Think about it while you think about the residency," he said, and left. She sat in the dressing room after he had gone, quite alone with the quiet. The competition makeup felt heavy. The envelope sat on the table. She picked it up, walked it to the bin in the corner, and dropped it in. Then she went to wash her face. The residency answer was yes. It had been yes from the moment he said that is always the thing worth seeing. Because that was what Irene had said to her at 13, in slightly different words. And she did not believe in ignoring that kind of echo. The 18 months that followed were the most productive of her career. She made 3 new works, each longer and more difficult than anything before. Each premiered with a company of 10 dancers who were sharp and willing to be pushed into discomfort the way Nadia had been pushed once, by a woman who believed in something not yet visible. She was a rigorous director, direct, honest, present. Her dancers were loyal with the loyalty of people who had been told the truth by someone who meant well. The scholarship program was named the Irene Reyes Award in the 2nd year. Nadia was present at the first ceremony. She stood at the back of the room and watched a 16-year-old girl from a suburb, very much like the one Nadia had grown up in, stand at a microphone and speak, haltingly, about what it meant to be told that the thing she was doing was worth believing in. Nadia did not cry during this. She cried in the car afterward. Her teacher had believed in that. Elliot had been at the first ceremony, standing beside her at the back of the room. They had been standing beside each other at various events for 14 months by then. The kind of proximity that begins as professional and becomes something else gradually. The way most important things become something else, by accumulation rather than declaration. He had told her at some point in the middle months of the residency that he had nearly not come to the competition, that Clara had asked him 3 times, and he had said no 3 times, and had come on the 4th ask only because she had said, with the specificity of someone who had worked for him for 9 years and had earned the right to be direct, "You will regret this one." She was right, Nadia said. Always, he said. It's her most annoying quality. They were married the following spring. Small ceremony, the foundation's courtyard, 30 people. Clara in the front row, not pretending she wasn't crying. Nadia wore the same shade she had worn in the competition. A deep, specific red she had chosen for the opening costume and had never been able to leave behind, because it was the color of something she was when she was most herself. She thought about an envelope under a door at 6:15 in the morning. About $8,000 and an index card that said you'll have other chances. She thought about lacing her shoes and walking out anyway. She thought about 4 seconds of silence and a face in the front row she had used as an anchor before she even knew what it belonged to. She had not taken the money. She had not placed 4th. She had walked out onto a stage and been fully herself in a difficult thing rather than at a safe distance from it. What her teacher had spent 11 years teaching her. And the man in the front row had stopped the entire event because he had seen it. She had other chances. She had built them herself. If this stayed with you, if you have ever held an envelope that offered you the easy way and put it down anyway, subscribe, share this, and leave a comment below. What's the thing you refuse to sell? The section is waiting.